The silence is the first thing that hits you, not a peaceful silence. It's a dead silence. The low, incessant hum of civilization, the refrigerators, the distant traffic, the electrical buzz in the walls, has been amputated. It's 8:14 p.m. The lights didn't just flicker, they vanished. You stand in the sudden, profound darkness of your living room, and a primal part of your brain, a part that hasn't spoken since your ancestors huddled in caves, screams that something is fundamentally wrong. Out the window, the city is a black ocean, a void where a constellation of life used to be. Then comes the second sound, the sirens. At first a lone wail, then two, then a dozen, weaving a chaotic, discordant symphony that tells you the rules have just been erased. This is it. The event. The day you've been waiting for. And you, the prepper, you feel a flicker of smug satisfaction. You think you're ready? You believe that your basement full of canned goods and bottled water has purchased you a ticket to survival. You walk over to your front door, you check the deadbolt, and you think to yourself, let them panic, I'm staying right here, I'm bugging in. And this is the fatal mistake. This single arrogant assumption made in the first hour is the gravestone on which your survival story will be written. You mock the unprepared masses, the sheeple who are now driving into gridlock or running to stores that are already empty. You see your home not as a building, but as a fortress, a castle. You believe that your wooden door and glass windows form a meaningful barrier against the unraveling of society. Reality check. Your home is not a fortress, it's a pantry. And you've just locked yourself inside with all the food. You are not a king in his castle. You are a steak in a wrapper. You have confused preparedness with insulation from reality. You think the game is about waiting. You are wrong. The game has already begun, and you have just made the first move for your opponent. Let's talk about the thermodynamics of a civilization. A city is a system of immense complexity, a bubble of low entropy maintained by a constant, massive influx of energy. Power, fuel, food, information. These are the inputs that hold back the relentless tide of chaos, which is the universe's natural state. Physicists call it the second law of thermodynamics, the tendency of any closed system to move toward maximum disorder or entropy. When you cut the power, you don't just lose lights and television. You sever the primary artery feeding the city. The system is now closed, and it will decay, rapidly. Sociologically, this is mirrored by the concept of the Dunbar's number, the cognitive limit to the number of people with whom one can maintain stable social relationships, roughly 150. Your entire society is built on a fragile trust network extending millions of people beyond your Dunbar limit. When the system fails, this network evaporates. The person living 3 doors down, whose name you barely know, is no longer a neighbor. They are a competing organism in a resource-scarce environment. Your smug decision to bug in is based on the delusion that the social contract will decay slowly, that your deadbolt is a substitute for a strategic position. Imagine it's day 3. The initial shock has worn off, replaced by a gnawing, desperate hunger on the streets. Your smugness is curdled into a low-grade paranoia. The bottled water in your basement feels less like a guarantee and more like a liability. You hear them outside. Not a mob, not yet. Just voices. People talking, testing, assessing. They know someone is in your house. The lack of panicked activity is itself a signal. Your house is quiet. Too quiet. It screams occupant with a plan. A knock comes at the door. It's not the frantic pounding of a looter. It's a calm, deliberate knock. It's your neighbor from down the street, the one with 2 young kids. He's asking for a little food, just enough to get by. Your plan, your delusion, tells you to stay silent. But the sound of his children crying in the background gnaws at you. This is the horror. It's not the zombie horde. It's the slow, agonizing erosion of your humanity. The moment you realize that to protect your resources, you must become a monster. Or you yield, you give him some food, and the signal goes out. This house is a source. The next knock won't be so polite. You are trapped in a box of your own making, surrounded by an ocean of desperation, your supplies a beacon attracting every hungry soul for miles. You didn't build a fortress, you built your own tomb. The hard, complex reality is that the decision to bug in or bug out is not a pre-made choice on a checklist. It is the single most important intelligence assessment you will make, and you have less than 24 hours to get it right. The solution is not a better lock for your door. The solution is a ruthless, real-time analysis of your location's viability. From the moment the power goes out, you are on the clock. Your first action should not be to lock the door, but to begin gathering information. What is the nature of the event? Is it localized or nationwide? How are the authorities responding? How is your immediate community reacting? You need a multi-layered plan with clear, predefined triggers. Trigger A: if communication lines are down and sirens are widespread for more than 2 hours, begin final stage bug-out preparations. Trigger: if neighbors begin to form aggressive, desperate groups, or if violence erupts within a 5-block radius, you are already behind schedule. You leave immediately via a pre-scouted unconventional route. Staying put is an active decision, not a default setting. It is only viable if you are in a low-density area, have a well-hidden and genuinely defensible position, and possess the support of a trusted, pre-vetted group who share your mindset and resources. Your first 24 hours should be spent in a state of heightened active vigilance, not passive, self-congratulatory waiting. You must be ready to abandon your hoard of supplies in an instant because your life is worth more than a stack of canned beans. The second mistake, made almost instantly after the power dies, is even more insidious because it feels like success. It's the water delusion. You fill your bathtub, you've read the blogs, you know that when the grid goes down, the municipal pressure will eventually fail. So you rush to the bathroom, plug the drain, and unleash the tap. You watch 60 gallons of clear, life-sustaining fluid fill the tub, and you feel like a genius. You've just secured a week's worth of hydration. Or so you think. What you've actually done is create a biological time bomb in the center of your home. You have just introduced a massive, uncovered, stagnant body of water into an environment that is about to lose climate control. You're thinking about volume. You should be thinking about microbiology. Let's talk about exponential growth. Bacteria don't add, they multiply. In ideal conditions, say, a tepid pool of water sitting at 70 degrees Fahrenheit in a house with no AC, a single bacterium of E. coli can divide every 20 minutes. 1 becomes 2. 2 become 4. In 8 hours, that single cell becomes 16 million. Now consider that your bathtub isn't sterile. It has a biofilm of soap scum, dead skin cells, and maybe a little residue from the last time you scrubbed it with a sponge that was itself a bacterial colony. You fill that tub and you don't treat it immediately with bleach or water purification tablets because you think, it's tap water, it's clean. Wrong. The chlorine in tap water is volatile. It off-gases. Within 24 hours, its protective power is gone. You have created a petri dish the size of a coffin, and you're planning to drink from it. Imagine it's day 6. You are thirsty. The bottled water is being rationed, so you dip a cup into the tub. The water looks clear enough, maybe a little dusty on the surface. You drink it. 12 hours later, the cramps start. Not just a stomach ache, but a violent, twisting agony that feels like you've swallowed broken glass. This is dysentery or maybe giardia. Your body, already stressed from a lack of sleep and high anxiety, now begins to purge fluids violently from both ends. You are losing water faster than you can replace it. In a survival situation, diarrhea isn't an inconvenience. It's a death spiral. You become delirious. Your kidneys begin to shut down as they desperately try to retain salt. You're dying of dehydration while lying next to a tub full of water. The horror is the smell. The smell of your own sickness filling the house. The smell of that stagnant tub water turning foul as algae and bacteria bloom. You are weak, trembling, unable to stand, watching the very resource you hoarded become the poison that kills you. Your family watches, helpless as you wither away, knowing that every sip they take from that same source is a gamble with the same fate. You didn't secure water. You secured a medium for disease vectoring. The solution is rigorous chemical discipline. Never store water in an open container without immediate treatment and sealing. If you fill a bathtub, it is for hygiene or flushing toilets, never for drinking unless you have no other choice, and even then, you must boil it or chemically treat it aggressively. Better yet, buy a water bob or a similar bladder liner before the crisis. This sterile plastic liner goes into the tub, seals the water away from the air and contaminants, and includes a pump. If you don't have one, you need to treat that tub water with bleach immediately, 8 drops per gallon of regular unscented bleach, and cover it with a tarp or plastic sheet taped down to slow evaporation and contamination. You need to think of the water not as a liquid, but as a volatile chemical substance that degrades the moment it leaves the pipe. Treat it. Seal it. Protect it, or it will kill you from the inside out. Now let's look at the third mistake. The gray man fantasy. You think you know how to blend in. You put on your tactical pants, your earth-tone fleece, and your sturdy boots. You think you look like a nondescript civilian. Reality check. You look like a contractor for Blackwater who got lost on the way to a barbecue. In a world where everyone else is wearing pajamas, jeans, and mismatched hoodies, your tactical casual is a neon sign that says, "I have supplies and a gun." You are projecting capability in an environment where capability makes you a target. You think you are hiding in plain sight. You are actually broadcasting your status as a high-value loot drop. Consider the psychology of pattern recognition. The human brain is a pattern-matching machine. In a crisis when resources are scarce, predators, and yes, desperate neighbors become predators, are scanning for anomalies. They are looking for signs of health, signs of equipment, signs of preparedness. Your clean clothes, your sturdy backpack with the Moel webbing, your confident stride, these are anomalies. They scream that you are not suffering like everyone else. You are signaling wealth in a poverty economy. The guy shuffling down the street in dirty sweatpants with a plastic grocery bag, he's invisible. You're a walking supply crate. Imagine it's day 10. You venture out to check the perimeter or scavenge. You think you're slick. But from a third-story window, eyes are watching. They see the way you scan the rooftops, a trained behavior. They see the outline of a concealed carry piece printed against your shirt. They see that your boots are high quality and well-maintained. They don't attack you then. They follow you. They track you back to your fortress. And that night, they don't come knocking. They come with a plan based on the intel you gave them just by walking down the street. You thought you were a ghost. You were actually a scout for the enemy. The solution is aggressive camouflage of competence. You need to look as miserable, dirty, and desperate as everyone else. Smear dirt on your face. Wear clothes that are slightly too big and visibly worn. Walk with a limp. Hunch your shoulders. Carry your supplies in a dirty trash bag, not a $300 tactical assault pack. If you have a weapon, it must be deeply concealed, not printed by a tight shirt. Your goal is to trigger a "can ignore" response in the observer's brain. You want to be classified as useless noise, not valuable signal. Hide your health. Hide your strength. Hide your sanity. Be the gray man by being the invisible, pathetic man. Survival is not about looking cool. It is about looking like you have nothing worth taking. Now let's talk about mistake number 4, the gun fetish. You went to the gun store, you bought the AR-15. You bought the tactical shotgun. You have 2,000 rounds of ammunition. You feel like Rambo. You think, I can defend my home against anyone. This is the delusion of kinetic power. You believe that ballistics is the primary language of survival. Reality check. You are not in a movie. You are in a siege. And in a siege, every time you pull the trigger, you lose. Let's discuss the acoustics of a gunshot. A 5.36 mm round leaving the barrel of an AR-15 generates a sound pressure wave of about 165 decibels. That is louder than a jet engine at takeoff. In a quiet, post-collapse world where the background noise of traffic and industry has vanished, that sound doesn't just travel. It dominates. It echoes for miles. Every single time you fire that weapon, you're putting a giant red pin on a map for every desperate armed group in the county. You just announced, here is a person with guns, here is a person with ammo, and here is a person who is currently distracted fighting someone else. You think you are ending a threat. You are actually inviting the next wave. Furthermore, let's talk about the physiology of combat stress. You think you will be a cool, calm operator. But when the adrenaline dumps into your bloodstream, your fine motor skills evaporate. This is not a theory. It is biological fact. Your heart rate spikes above 145 beats per minute. Your vision tunnels. Your auditory exclusion kicks in. You lose the ability to perform complex mechanical tasks like clearing a jam or reloading under fire. You, the untrained civilian, will be shaking, hyperventilating, and probably missing your target at 10 yards, while your neighbor, who you thought was a sheep, is flanking you with a rusty hunting rifle. Because he's actually hungry and you're just scared. Imagine it's day 14. A group of looters probes your perimeter. You fire warning shots. They retreat. You feel victorious. But they didn't retreat because they were scared. They retreated to reassess. They now know your range. They know your location. They know you are alone. That night they don't come at you. They set a fire in the brush upwind of your house. The smoke chokes you out. You're forced to flee your fortress, coughing and blind, right into their ambush. Your guns are now their guns. Your supplies are now their supplies. You died because you thought a firearm was a magic wand that makes problems disappear. It is not. It is a tool of last resort that creates as many problems as it solves. The solution is layered, passive defense, and de-escalation. Your primary weapon is not your rifle. It is your brain and your ability to avoid conflict entirely. If you are in a gunfight, you have already failed. The goal is to be undetected, then deterred, then denied. Use blackout curtains to hide your light. Reinforce your doors not just with locks, but with 2 2x4 4 braces that anchor into the floor, making them impossible to kick in silently. Use thorny landscaping, blackberry bushes, holly, barberry, beneath your windows to create a painful, natural barrier that doesn't look like a fortification. And if you must engage, you do it silently if possible, or you do it from a position of overwhelming, unfair advantage, and you move immediately after firing. A gun is a dinner bell for trouble. Don't ring it unless you're ready to serve the whole neighborhood. Finally, let's address the 5th mistake, the lone wolf mentality. You have this romantic notion of the rugged individualist, the mountain man who needs no one. You think other people are just mouths to feed, liabilities that will drag you down. You're going to survive on your own, trusting no one. Reality check. There is no such thing as a lone wolf survivor in the long term. There are only corpses found in the woods. Humans are obligate social animals. We did not climb to the top of the food chain because we are strong or fast. We got there because we cooperate. Let's look at the sleep cycle. A human being needs roughly 7 to 9 hours of sleep to maintain cognitive function. After 24 hours without sleep, your cognitive impairment is equivalent to a blood alcohol level of 0.10%. You are legally drunk. After 48 hours, you start microsleeping and hallucinating. If you are alone, who watches your back while you sleep? No one. You are vulnerable for 1/3 of your life. A group of 4 people can maintain a 24-hour watch with everyone getting 6 hours of sleep. A lone individual cannot. You will eventually crash, and when you do, you'll be woken up by a knife at your throat or simply never wake up at all. Imagine it's day 20. You twisted your ankle. A simple injury. In civilization, it's a nuisance. In the collapse, for a lone wolf, it is a death sentence. You can't gather firewood. You can't haul water. You can't patrol. Infection sets in. You are lying in your shelter, burning with fever, too weak to reach your water supply just 10 feet away. You realize in your delirium that the greatest resource you rejected was not ammo or food, but a helping hand. You die alone, not because of the collapse, but because of your ego. The solution is community building. Before the disaster, you need to know your neighbors. You need to identify skills. Who is a nurse? Who is a mechanic? Who is a gardener? You need to build a tribe. This doesn't mean you trust everyone blindly. It means you build a circle of trust, a mutual assistance group, MAG. You share resources, you share watch duties, you share skills. A group of 10 average people working together will crush a single expert every time. Survival is a team sport. If you are playing solitaire, you have already lost. Now let's pivot to mistake number 6, the stockpile obsession. You have spent thousands of dollars on freeze-dried meals, MREs, and rice. You have calculated calories down to the last gram. You believe that you have mathematically solved the problem of food security. Reality check. You have built a static monument to a dynamic problem. Food is not just about calories. It is about nutrition, morale, and most critically, shelf life under realistic conditions. You are planning for a spreadsheet apocalypse. The real apocalypse is wet, moldy, and full of rats. Let's talk about the actual chemistry of food degradation. You stack those buckets of wheat in your basement. You think they will last 25 years. What you didn't calculate was humidity. Moisture is the enemy of long-term food storage, and your basement, unless it's climate-controlled, is a humidity chamber. Water vapor finds its way into sealed containers through microscopic imperfections in the gasket. Once inside, it triggers a cascade of destruction. Fungal spores, which exist on nearly every surface, germinate. Mycotoxins, poisons produced by mold, contaminate the grain. You open that bucket on day 90, and you don't find nutrition. you find a science experiment. And if you eat it because you are desperate, those mycotoxins attack your liver and kidneys, weakening you just when you need strength most. You didn't stockpile food, you stockpiled a future medical crisis. Furthermore, let's discuss the concept of caloric density versus nutritional completeness. Your 2,000 calories a day of white rice and beans will keep you from starving, but it will not keep you from scurvy. Scurvy, the disease of sailors and prisoners, is caused by a deficiency of vitamin C. It takes about 3 months of no vitamin C intake for symptoms to appear: fatigue, bleeding gums, loosening teeth, reopening of old healed wounds. Your body is literally falling apart at the seams. Why? Because ascorbic acid is required for collagen synthesis. Without it, your connective tissue disintegrates. You thought you were a prepared survivalist. You are now a medieval beggar dying of a completely preventable disease because your stockpile was a monoculture of carbohydrates. Imagine it's day 120. Your gums are bleeding when you chew your bland rice. You have a wound on your leg from a week ago that hasn't healed. In fact, it's getting worse. You are exhausted, unable to perform simple tasks. You look at your wall of food buckets and realize that you have been slowly poisoning yourself with nutritional deficiency. The psychological horror of this is devastating. You did everything right, according to the YouTube preppers, and you are still dying. Not from violence, not from disease vectors, but from your own ignorance of basic nutrition. The solution is rotating diversified food storage with aggressive micronutrient supplementation. You need to store what you actually eat and rotate it constantly. First in, first out. Canned goods are underrated. They have a realistic shelf life of 2 to 5 years and contain actual micronutrients. You need multivitamins, especially vitamin C tablets stored in a cool, dry, dark location. You need to plan for a garden, not as a hobby, but as a survival necessity. Seeds, heirloom, non-GMO seeds that can be replanted, are more valuable than gold in a long-term collapse. You need to learn to sprout. Sprouting seeds like lentils, alfalfa, and wheat not only increases their nutritional content, but provides fresh greens in the dead of winter without soil or sunlight. Your food plan cannot be a static inventory. It must be a living, evolving system. Otherwise, you are just a well-fed corpse waiting to happen. Now, the 7th mistake, the hygiene collapse. You think cleanliness is a luxury, a nice-to-have that you can skip in a crisis. You stop showering to save water. You stop brushing your teeth because toothpaste isn't critical. Reality check. Hygiene is not cosmetic. It is medical. The collapse of personal sanitation is the express lane to infection, disease, and death. You're not going to die from being dirty. You're going to die from the bacterial infection that started because you were dirty. Let's talk about dental infections. A cavity, left untreated, progresses into the pulp of the tooth. Bacteria feast on the necrotic tissue, creating an abscess, a pocket of pus. That abscess doesn't stay localized. The infection spreads through the root canal into the jawbone, causing osteomyelitis, an infection of the bone itself. From there, it can enter the bloodstream, causing septicemia, blood poisoning. Your body goes into septic shock. Your organs fail. You die, screaming in agony, from a toothache. This is not hypothetical. This is how people died routinely before modern dentistry. And in a collapse, you are now living in that pre-modern world. Imagine it's day 45. You have a toothache. You ignore it because you have bigger problems. By day 50, the pain is constant. By day 55, your face is swollen and you're running a fever. By day 60, you're delirious, your heart is racing, and your breath smells like death. Your companions watch helplessly as you convulse and die from an infection that started because you didn't brush your teeth. The horror is the mundane nature of it. You survived the riots, the starvation, the gunfights. You died because of plaque. The solutions of aggressive military-grade hygiene protocols. Brushing and flossing are non-negotiable daily tasks. Stock up on toothbrushes, toothpaste, and dental floss. If you run out, use baking soda and salt as a makeshift toothpaste. It's abrasive enough to clean, but won't destroy enamel. For bathing, you don't need a full shower. A sponge bath with a single liter of water, a washcloth, and biodegradable soap is sufficient to prevent bacterial overgrowth on your skin. Focus on the hot zones, armpits, groin, feet, where bacteria thrive. For waste management, you need a plan. A bucket toilet with sawdust or wood ash for covering waste prevents odor and reduces fly breeding, which are disease vectors. You need hand sanitizer, bleach for disinfecting surfaces, and a strict protocol. Wash hands before eating, after using the toilet, and after handling anything outside your clean zone. Hygiene is not about comfort. It is about microbial warfare. And if you lose that war, you lose everything. Now we arrive at mistake number 8, the medical fantasy. You have a first aid kit. It's big. It's orange. It has 500 pieces, mostly band-aids of various sizes, and a single pair of flimsy scissors. You think you're a field medic. Reality check. You're a glorified sticker dispenser. In a real collapse, first aid is irrelevant. What you need is prolonged field care. The difference is the difference between putting a patch on a tire and rebuilding the engine while driving 60 miles per hour. Let's talk about the pharmacokinetics of expired antibiotics. You hoarded fish antibiotics, amoxicillin, ciprofloxacin, because you read they were the same as human drugs. Chemically, yes, they often are. But antibiotics degrade. Tetracyclines, for example, become nephrotoxic, toxic to your kidneys, as they break down into epinhydrotetracycline. You take an expired pill to fight a lung infection, and instead, you shut down your renal filtration system. You trade pneumonia for kidney failure. Even if they aren't toxic, they lose potency. A subtherapeutic dose doesn't kill the bacteria, it trains them. You're creating a superbug in your own bloodstream. You are teaching the infection how to defeat you. Furthermore, let's look at the physiology of shock. You think trauma is about blood loss. It is. But it is also about the lethal triad: hypothermia, acidosis, and coagulopathy. When you lose blood, you lose the ability to carry oxygen. Your cells switch to anaerobic metabolism, producing lactic acid. Your blood becomes acidic. Acidic blood cannot clot. At the same time, your body temperature drops because blood carries heat. Cold blood cannot clot. You enter a doom loop where you bleed because you are cold and acidic, and you get colder and more acidic because you are bleeding. You slap a tourniquet on your buddy's leg and think you saved him, but you didn't cover him with a thermal blanket. You didn't elevate his feet. You didn't address the acidosis. He stops bleeding externally, but he dies internally, his organs shutting down one by one in a cold, silent cascade. Imagine it's day 75. Your child cuts their hand on a rusty can lid, a deep gash. You clean it. You stitch it up with your suture kit you watched a YouTube video on, but you didn't debride the wound properly. You sewed anaerobic bacteria inside the wound pocket. 2 days later, the hand is hot. Red streaks are running up the arm, sepsis. You reach for your fish antibiotics. They don't work. You watch the black necrosis spread. You realize that your medical kit was a toy, and your lack of knowledge is the executioner. You didn't need stitches. You needed to leave the wound open to drain and heal by secondary intention. You close the door on the infection, locking it in with your child. The solution is skills over pills. Stop buying kits and start taking courses. Stop the Bleed, Wilderness First Responder, WFR, or TCCC, Tactical Combat Casualty Care. Learn how to debride a wound, how to splint a fracture with random debris, how to manage a fever without Tylenol using evaporative cooling. Stockpile real medical supplies: honey, antimicrobial, alcohol, sanitization, clean cotton sheets, bandages, and yes, antibiotics. But know their half-lives and contraindications cold. Knowledge weighs nothing. A scalpel in the hands of an idiot is a murder weapon. A sterilized needle in the hands of a trained parent is a lifesaver. Mistake number 9, the paperweight fallacy. You have terabytes of survival manuals, Wikipedia dumps, and maps on your hard drive, your Kindle, your iPad. You have a solar charger. You think you own the sum of the human knowledge. Reality check. Digital data is a ghost. It requires a complex, fragile ecosystem of hardware to exist. One EMP, one corrupted sector, one broken charging port, and you are back to the Stone Age. Let's discuss the physics of an EMP, or a coronal mass ejection. A massive surge of electromagnetic energy induces high voltage currents in conductive materials, like the microcircuitry of your hard drive. It fries the delicate p-n junctions in the semiconductors. Your library is instantly turned into a brick of silicon and plastic. Even without an EMP, consider the failure rate of consumer electronics in high humidity, rough handling environments. Screens crack, batteries swells and die, charging cables fray. You are betting your survival on the reliability of a $10 cable made in a factory that no longer exists. Imagine it's day 200. You need to know which local mushroom is edible and which one dissolves your liver. You have the PDF on your tablet. You plug it into your solar panel. The charge light blinks and goes out. The battery has finally failed after months of deep cycling. You stare at the black screen. The information is right there, millimeters away, locked behind a wall of dead electrons. You are holding the answer in your hand, but you can't see it. You guess. You eat the mushroom. It's an Amanita phalloides, death cap. The toxins bind to your RNA polymerase II, stopping protein synthesis in your cells. Your liver melts. You die holding a dead iPad. The solution is analog redundancy. If it is critical knowledge, medical guides, local plant identification, water purification formulas, maps, it must be on paper. Print it out, laminate it, bind it, build a physical library. Books do not run out of batteries. Books do not break when you drop them. Books work by candlelight. You need USGS topographical maps of your area, not Google Maps. You need the Merck manual for medicine, not WebMD. You need the Encyclopedia of Country Living, not a blog post. Paper is the only hard drive that survives the end of the world. Finally, mistake number 10, the end date delusion. You are mentally prepared for a week, a month, maybe a year. You are waiting for things to go back to normal. You treat the collapse as an interruption to your life. Reality check. The collapse is not an interruption. It is a reset. There is no back. There is only forward. The psychological inability to accept the permanence of the change is the final killer. Let's talk about the psychology of hope. Short-term hope is a survival mechanism, but false hope? It's a poison. It prevents you from adapting. You don't plant a garden because the trucks will be running by spring. You don't learn to sew because stores will open soon. You are living in a waiting room for a train that has already derailed. This cognitive dissonance creates a state of paralysis. You are preserving resources for a future that will never come, instead of investing them in the reality that is already here. Imagine it's year 2. The power never came back. The government never reorganized. The temporary camp you built is falling apart. You look at your children, they don't remember television, they don't remember ice cream, they are adapted. But you are broken. You are still waiting. You are bitter, angry, mourning a ghost world. Your depression makes you careless. You stop watching the perimeter. You stop boiling the water. You give up. And the new world, which has no pity for the nostalgic, swallows you whole. The solution is radical acceptance. The moment the lights go out, you must kill the person you were. That person, the accountant, the gamer, the consumer, is dead. You are now a survivor, a builder, a savage if necessary. You must embrace the new reality not as a tragedy, but as the only reality there is. Don't plan for the recovery. Plan for the new dark age. Build a life that is sustainable forever, not just for the duration of the emergency. Find joy in the small victories. A fire that starts easily, a crop that grows well, a safe night's sleep. The old world is gone. The sooner you mourn it and bury it, the sooner you can start living in the new one. Welcome to the collapse. It's not a temporary inconvenience. It's your new home. Make sure you survive the housewarming. Let's move to mistake number 11, the Maginot Line complex. You spent $50,000 on a fence. Maybe it's chain link with razor wire. Maybe it's a solid brick wall. You look at that barrier and think, I am safe behind this. Reality check. A fence is not a defense, it is a delay mechanism. Without eyes on it, a wall is just a canvas for your enemy to plan their breach. If you can't cover every inch of that perimeter with direct fire or observation, you haven't built a wall. You've built a visual obstruction that hides the enemy from you as they cut through it. Let's discuss the engineering of breaching. A standard chain link fence can be compromised in under 12 seconds with a pair of bolt cutters. A brick wall? A simple sledgehammer or a hydraulic jack from a scavenge car can bring a section down in minutes, but the physics goes deeper. Let's talk about leverage and fulcrums. An attacker doesn't need to knock down the whole wall. They just need to create a stress fracture at the weakest point, usually where the gate hinges meet the masonry. By applying torque to the gate, the masonry crumbles. The barrier you trusted is structural, yes, but it is static. Your enemy is dynamic. They will find the path of least resistance, which is often under or over, not through. Tunneling, for instance, is a matter of simple soil mechanics. If your wall doesn't have a footer at least 3 feet deep, a determined group can dig under it in a single night. Imagine it's day 250. You are sleeping soundly because you have a secure perimeter. Outside, in the dead of night, a group of attackers has approached your blind spot, the corner where the tree line meets your wall. They don't climb it. They use a thermal lance, a simple tube packed with steel wool and magnesium, to silently melt the hinges of your back gate. No explosion and no noise. Just a hiss of oxidation, and reaching 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit, they walk in. You wake up to footsteps in your hallway. Your wall is still standing perfect and untouched. You died because you confused a physical object with a tactical capability. The solution is the concept of defense in depth. A perimeter is not a line. It is a zone. It starts 100 yards outside your fence. You need the early warning systems, infrared tripwires attached to noisemakers, cans with rocks, motion-activated solar lights. Even if they just blink once, they reveal position, and noisy landscaping like dry gravel that crunches underfoot. Your actual fence should be transparent, like chain link or welded wire, so you can see out, but backed by concealment, bushes, so they can't see in. But most importantly, a fence is useless without a patrol. You need a schedule. You need listening posts, LPs, camouflage positions, where a sentry sits in total darkness, just listening. The human ear, in the absence of ambient city noise, is a radar dish. You rely on biology, hearing and sight, enhanced by geometry, overlapping fields of fire, not just masonry. Mistake number 12, the generator trap. You have a gas generator. It's loud, it's heavy, and it guzzles fuel. You think, I have power. Reality check. You have a noise beacon that screams, I have resources, to everyone within a 2-mile radius. And you have a machine that is addicted to a fuel supply that no longer exists. Gas degrades. Diesel grows algae. In 6 months, your fuel is varnish. Your generator is a 200-pound paperweight that effectively painted a target on your back the last time you ran it. Let's talk about the chemistry of fuel stability. Gasoline is a mixture of volatile hydrocarbons. Over time, the lighter fractions evaporate, leaving behind heavier gums and varnishes. These clog the carburetor jets, which are often only a few microns wide. But worse is the phase separation caused by ethanol. Most modern gas contains ethanol. Ethanol is hygroscopic. It attracts water from the air. When enough water is absorbed, the ethanol-water mixture separates from the gas and sinks to the bottom of the tank. Your fuel intake pulls from the bottom. You try to start your generator, and you're feeding it water and alcohol. It destroys the engine immediately. Hydrostatic lock can bend a connecting rod. You didn't just run out of gas. You mechanically destroyed your power source because you didn't understand the chemistry of the liquid you poured into it. Furthermore, let's look at the acoustics of low-frequency sound waves. A generator running at 3,600 RPM produces a low thrum that travels through the ground and structures better than high-frequency noise. You might put it in a shed and think it's quiet, but your neighbor 3 houses down feels the vibration in his floorboards. Sound is not just air pressure, it is mechanical energy. You are broadcasting a mechanical signal. In a silent world, that signal is the equivalent of a lighthouse. Imagine it's day 15. You run the generator for an hour to keep the freezer cold. You think you're being efficient. 3 streets over, a group of survivors hears the faint rhythmic hum. They don't come immediately. They triangulate. They wait until the sound stops. Then they move. They know exactly which house has the fuel. They know exactly which house has the frozen meat. You traded a few pounds of frozen chicken for your life. The solution is silence and renewables. Solar is the only viable long-term option, but not the plug-and-play kits. You need a system you understand. Separate panels, a charge controller, a LiFePO4, lithium iron phosphate, battery bank, and a pure sine wave inverter. Why LiFePO4? Because lead-acid batteries die if you discharge them below 50%. Lithium can go to 90%. Lead-acid lasts 500 cycles, lithium lasts 3,000 duracelings. But the real key is energy austerity. You don't power a freezer. You power a radio, a flashlight, and a small fan. You live with the sun. When it's dark, you sleep. You don't fight the night with a roaring engine. You adapt to the rhythm of the planet. Mistake number 13. The bug-out vehicle fantasy. You have a lifted truck, big tires, winch, jerry cans on the back. You think you are going to drive out of the apocalypse like it's a car commercial. Reality check. Roads are the first piece of infrastructure to fail. They will be parking lots of abandoned cars, checkpoints run by armed gangs, or simply bombed out. Your truck is a cage. It is big, it is loud, and it is trapped. Let's talk about traffic flow dynamics. In a mass evacuation, road capacity drops to zero, almost instantly due to the phantom traffic jam effect, compounded by accidents and breakdowns. Once a single lane is blocked, the throughput of a highway doesn't just halve, it collapses exponentially due to merging friction. Now add panic. People will drive on shoulders, medians, and against traffic. The result is a solid lock. Your 4x4 capabilities don't matter when you are boxed in by 5,000 sedans. And let's talk about the thermal signature of a combustion engine. A running engine block is a 200-degree radiator. Even hours after you turn it off, it glows on thermal optics. Military drones, or even commercial drones with thermal cameras, which are common now, can spot a vehicle from miles away at night. You think you are off-road, hidden in the woods. To a thermal sensor, you are a bright white flare in a dark forest. Imagine it's hour 4. You hit the highway. It's gridlock. You try to go off-road. You make it 2 miles before you hit a drainage ditch you didn't see, or a fence you can't cut. You are stuck. Now you are a sitting duck. People on foot are walking past you faster than you are driving. They look at your truck full of gear. They look at you strapped in your seatbelt. You are not a driver. You are a loot crate on wheels. They smash the window. Game over. The solution is mobility that doesn't rely on infrastructure. A bicycle. Specifically, a mountain bike with panniers and a trailer. It is silent. It requires no fuel. It can traverse hiking trails, railroad tracks, and narrow gaps between stalled cars. It can be carried over obstacles. A human on a bicycle is the most energy-efficient transport organism on Earth. You can cover 50 miles a day on calories from a jar of peanut butter, or simply your feet. Physical fitness, rucking capability is the ultimate vehicle. If you can't walk 20 miles with a 40-pound pack, you're not a survivalist. You're a refugee waiting for a bus that will never come. Mistake number 14, the barter delusion. You stocked up on mini bottles of vodka, cigarettes, and gold coins. You think you will be the post-apocalyptic merchant. Reality check. Barter is a high-trust interaction in a zero-trust world. Early on, nobody wants to trade. They want to take. Showing someone you have trade goods is showing them you have a stash. Let's talk about the psychology of valuation. Gold has no intrinsic value in a survival scenario. You can't eat it. You can't shoot it. It creates no heat. Its value is a social construct that evaporates when the social order collapses. You offer a gold coin for a can of beans. The guy with the beans looks at the coin, then looks at you. He realizes he can just shoot you and keep the beans and take the coin, maybe for later. You're trying to use a fiat currency in a caloric economy. And alcohol, sure, cigarettes? Yes, they are valuable, but they attract the worst kind of demographic, addicts. You are advertising to people with poor impulse control and high desperation. You become a magnet for unstable elements. The solution is skill-based trade, or stealth barter. Don't trade goods, trade services, fix a generator, stitch a wound, sharpen a knife. These are things that cannot be stolen from you. If you must trade goods, trade trash, dirt that has value only to the resourceful. Plastic buckets, nails, cordage. Never trade food or ammo unless you are trading with a trusted partner. And never, ever let the trading partner come to your store. You meet in a neutral location. You have backup. And you never show your full inventory. We are deep in the dark now. The lights are out. The water is poison. The neighbors are hungry. And we are just getting started on how many ways you can die if you follow the standard advice. What about the psychological breakdown? And what about the failure of sanitation leading to cholera? Shall we continue the descent? Mistake number 15. The fire delusion. You have matches. You have a lighter. You think fire is easy. You think you can just gather some sticks and have a roaring blaze to keep you warm and cook your food. Reality check. Fire is a calorie-negative activity for the unskilled. You will burn more energy gathering the wood than you will get back from the heat. especially if the wood is wet, green, or frozen. And smoke? Smoke is a signal flare that rises hundreds of feet into the air, visible for miles. Let's talk about the physics of combustion and moisture content. Wood needs to be below 20% moisture content to burn efficiently. In a survival situation, most deadfall is wet. To get it to burn, you have to boil off the water first. This consumes massive amounts of heat energy, energy that should be warming you. You are essentially building a steam engine, not a heater. And the smoke produced by incomplete combustion of wet wood contains creosote and particulate matter that will irritate your lungs, causing coughing fits that betray your position just as much as the visual plume. Imagine it's day 30. It's raining. You are shivering, approaching stage 1 hypothermia. You find some wood, but it's soaked. You use your precious lighter fluid to get it going. It smolders, it smokes. You spend 3 hours blowing on it, gathering more wet twigs, shivering violently. Finally, you get a small flame. It provides almost no radiant heat, but the smoke column, it's thick, white, and acrid. A patrol sees it from a ridgeline 3 miles away. They don't need thermal optics, they just need eyes. They come to investigate the smoke signal you just sent up. You traded your stealth for a fire that didn't even warm your hands. The solution is the Dakota fire hole and thermal insulation. Dig a hole, and dig a separate air intake tunnel. The fire burns underground, creating a draft that pulls smoke back into the fire to reburn it, increasing efficiency and reducing visual signature. The earth insulates the heat, directing it up like a stove, but better than fire is insulation. You survive the cold by trapping your own body heat, not by generating external heat. Wool blankets, mylar barriers, sleeping bags rated for 20 degrees. You stay warm by becoming a thermos, not a furnace. Mistake number 16. The SHTF. Radio silence. You have a Baofeng UV5R. You have its scanning channels. You never transmit because you are smart. But you also don't know what to listen for. You are listening for news. Reality check. There is no news. There is only tactical chatter. If you don't know the frequencies of local industrial operations, trucking fleets, and ham radio repeaters before the collapse, your radio is just a white noise machine. Let's discuss RF propagation. Radio waves behave differently depending on frequency, terrain, and atmospheric conditions. VHF, very high frequency, is line of sight. If you are in a valley, you hear nothing. HF, high frequency, bounces off the ionosphere, allowing global communication, but it requires a long antenna and knowledge of propagation windows, day versus night. You bought a handheld radio with a 4-inch rubber antenna. You are deaf to 99% of the signals around you. Imagine it's day 60. A relief column or a raiding party is coordinating on 625 MHz, the red dot business frequency often used by itinerants. It's not a ham band. It's not a police band. It's a common industrial frequency. You aren't scanning it because you didn't program it. They roll right past your hideout. You miss the chance to either hide deeper or signal for help. You had the tool, but you lacked the frequency plan. The solution is a Communication Signal Operating Instruction, SOI, developed now. You need a printed list of every frequency in your county: police, fire, EMS, public works, school buses, local businesses, GMRS, FRS, and MORS channels. You need to scan them now to learn the baseline traffic pattern. That way, when the pattern changes or stops, you know what it means. And you need a better antenna. A roll-up J-pole antenna made of twin lead wire that you can hoist into a tree will give your $25 radio the ears of a $500 base station. Mistake number 17. The Rambo knife. You bought a massive sawback survival knife. It looks like something from a video game. It's heavy, unwieldy, and made of cheap stainless steel that can't hold an edge. Reality check. A big knife is a bad axe, and a terrible scalpel. You can't carve a trap trigger with a machete. You can't skin a squirrel with a sword. Let's talk about metallurgy and blade geometry. You want high carbon steel, like 1095, not cheap stainless. Carbon steel sparks when struck with flint, fire starter. It takes a razor edge easily, but it rusts. That's a trade-off you accept for performance. And you need a system. A small, precise neck knife for detailed work, skinning, carving traps, A robust belt knife for 5-inch blade, for general tasks, and a folding saw or hatchet for processing wood. The one tool to rule them all is a myth that leaves you with a broken tip and blistered hands. Imagine it's day 90. You need to make a figure 4 deadfall trap to catch a rabbit. It requires precise notch-carving cuts. You pull out your giant tracker knife. It's like trying to do eye surgery with a shovel. You slip. You cut your thumb to the bone. Now you have a disabled hand and no food. The trap fails. The rabbit lives. You bleed. The solution is the Nessmuk trio philosophy: axe, belt knife, pocket knife, or modern equivalent, a Morikniv, cheap, incredible steel, Scandi grind for wood carving, a folding silky saw, cuts wood like butter, weighs nothing, and a multi-tool, Leatherman, for mechanical tasks. Function over form. If it looks cool, it's probably trash. Mistake number 18. The trash can. Oversight. You prepared for food, water, defense. You didn't prepare for garbage. Reality check. You generate trash every day. Wrappers, cans, biological waste. In a city with no garbage trucks, where does it go? You throw it in the backyard. Rats. You burn it. Smoke. See mistake 15. You keep it inside. Disease. Let's talk about pest vectoring. Rats are not just annoying, they are an apex survivalist species that carries hantavirus, leptospirosis, and bubonic plague. They can smell food residue on a tin can from 50 yards away. If you create a mitten heap in your yard, you are building a breeding ground for the very things that will eat your food supply and infect your family. Imagine it's day 40. You have a pile of trash bags in the garage. The smell is ungodly. You hear the scratching at night. Thousands of tiny claws. They chew through the drywall. They get into your pantry. They urinate on your rice supply. You lose 50% of your calories to contamination because you didn't have a waste management plan. The solution is leave no trace on steroids. Burn all paper and cardboard in your Dakota fire hole at night. Wash and crush all metal cans. They can be used for scrap, security noisemakers, or roofing shingles later. Compost all organic matter in a sealed anaerobic digester, a buried bucket, far from the house. Plastic is the enemy. Repress it into eco-bricks. Stuffing soft plastic into plastic bottles until they are solid bricks, which can be used for insulation or construction. Trash is a resource if managed. It is a biohazard if ignored. Mistake number 19, the goldfish memory. You think you will remember where you buried your cash. You think you will remember the code to your safe. You think you will remember which berries are safe. Reality check. Stress destroys memory. Cortisol floods the hippocampus, inhibiting recall. Under extreme duress, starvation, sleep deprivation, fear, you will forget your own mother's phone number, let alone the GPS coordinates of your backup supplies. Imagine it's day 100. You are forced to flee to your backup location. You buried a cache of ammo and food there 3 years ago. You arrive. The landscape has changed. Trees have fallen and grass has grown. You dig. Nothing. You dig 5 feet to the left. Nothing. You are exhausted, crying, digging holes in the mud, looking for the life-saving supplies you know are there, but your brain cannot retrieve the triangulation points. You die of exposure on top of your own as a buried treasure. The solution is physical, redundant mapping, pace counts, azimuths, permanent markers, large rocks, not trees that can fall, and a physical map drawn in waterproof ink, hidden in a separate secure location, or carried on your person in a dead drop hollow bolt. Do not trust your brain. It is a wet computer that malfunctions when it overheats. Externalize your memory. Mistake number 20, the hero complex. You see someone in trouble, you intervene. You save the damsel, you share your food. Reality check. This is not a movie. Altruism in the first phase of collapse is suicide. It sounds harsh, it sounds evil, but it is the mathematical reality of finite resources. Every calorie you give away is a calorie you steal from your child. Every risk you take to save a stranger is a roll of the dice where the house odds are death. Let's talk about the drowning swimmer instinct. When a lifeguard approaches a drowning person, the drowning person will instinctively climb on top of the lifeguard to breathe, drowning the rescuer. Desperate people are drowning swimmers. They will cling to you, they will drain you, they will not let go until you are both under. Imagine it's day 10. You see a family begging for water. You give them a gallon. They are grateful. They leave. An hour later, 5 more families show up. "He gave us water!" they shout. You have just become the aid station. You can't feed them all. You have to say no. Now you're the villain. The crowd turns angry. They storm your house. You lost everything because you tried to be the hero for one moment. The solution is the gray rock method of social interaction. You are boring. You are unhelpful. You are just as desperate as they are, even if you aren't. You deflect. You hide. You survive. Later, when you have established a sustainable community, then you can be charitable. Then you can be a hero, but you cannot save anyone if you are dead. Secure your oxygen mask first before assisting others. That is not selfishness, that is the prerequisite for long-term utility. This is the end of the first book of The Collapse. We have covered 20 fatal errors, but the rabbit hole goes forever. There are mistakes in psychological resilience, in long-term agriculture, in childbirth without hospitals, and rebooting civilization. But for now, chew on this. And look at your preps with new, cynical eyes, because the dark is coming, and doesn't care how many YouTube videos you watched. And so, we reach the end of the beginning. The first 20 mistakes are not just errors in judgment, they are symptoms of a mind still tethered to a dead world. You have learned that your home is a coffin, your water is poison, your guns are dinner bells, and your wealth is just trash waiting to be looted. But do not mistake this reality check for hopelessness. It is actually liberation. By stripping away the fantasies of Red Dawn heroism and Doomsday Preppers consumerism, you are left with the raw, brutal, beautiful physics of survival. You stopped trying to buy your way out of the collapse and started trying to think your way through it. You realize that the ultimate survival tool is not in your backpack. It is in your skull. It is the ability to adapt, to learn, to cooperate, and to endure discomfort that would break a lesser animal. The survivors of the future will not be the ones with the biggest bunkers or the most ammo. They will be the ones who can stitch a wound with a fishing line, who can grow potatoes in a bucket of compost, who can fix a radio with a soldering iron heated in a fire, and who can look a starving stranger in the eye and make the hard calculation of whether to trust or to shoot. They will be the ones who have accepted that the old days are gone and have committed themselves fully to the construction of the new. So go ahead. Look at your stockpile. Look at your gear. And ask yourself the hard question. Is this keeping me alive, or is this just a pacifier for my anxiety? If it's the latter, get rid of it. Replace it with skills. Replace it with alliances. Replace it with the cold, hard resolve of someone who intends not just to survive the event, but to survive the aftermath. The collapse is a filter. It strips away the essential from the non-essential, the signal from the noise, the living from the dead. You have been warned. You have been educated. The rest is up to you. The lights are flickering, the sirens are starting, the test has begun. Good luck. You're going to need it.